Hello and welcome to another edition of the Door 14 Hockey Podcast. I'm your host Marty alongside Dave
Hello.
and John.
Hello.
Hello guys, how are you doing?
Good.
How are you?
Being joined by our TikTok superstar.
Yeah, our TikTok superstar. Yeah. John, we'll get to that in a second, but we are back for an episode, I suppose, pre-season episode. This episode we're going to focus solely on kind of the Elite League, and just have a quick chat around kind of roster changes and also have a look at those all-important jerseys for this year too, as well as have we look forward to the upcoming pre-season games, which are all starting to, well, a few have kicked off this past weekend I know Cardiff were in action this past weekend for pre-season, but the majority of the pre-season games will be starting from this coming weekend. So we'll talk about those two and some of those tournaments that are happening. But before we get to that, let's get on to see how you guys catch up with you guys. John, back to what Dave was saying, TikTok superstar. You've started to kind of add to our TikTok account. How's that going for you?
Look, Elon decided that X is no longer the open platform it used to be, so we need to get down with the kids. We need to start dancing. We need to start doing video transitions and all the rest. And yeah, I've done a few now, and I'll be honest, it's fun. It's way outside of my comfort zone. My wife is very displeased with me doing TikToks now, I have to say, as you guys can attest to in our sort of wider group chat that includes family. There were plenty of questions as to why my face was popping up on people's TikToks.
I think I'm trying to find the message here. I just want to. There was a message came through in our group chat, and the first I hadn't seen the TikTok by this point, but when I got a message when the first message came through from your good lovely wife, and it said something where was along the lines of I'd like to raise a complaint with the Door 14 social media manager, and I was like, that's your husband. When
they asked to speak to the manager, and you are the manager.
That's true. They did say, can I request more senior approval required in future?
The best one was that she knows that I'm more or less the only one who looks after the Instagram, so she sent a DM to Instagram, which was basically straight to me, that said, I want a divorce.
The one comment I did get from someone was my sister-in-law actually. My sister-in-law messaged and she said, "Oh, I see Door 14's on TikTok." And I said, "Yeah. John's having a bit of fun there over on TikTok." And she said he's got a lot of confidence, doesn't he?
Hey, so if you haven't got confidence, what have you got?
Dave, how are you doing?
Good. Looking forward to getting back to some hockey. Ended the season probably missing a few games that I would have liked to have seen, but looking forward to the start of a new year. It's the league's shaping up really nice, so it's going to be an interesting one. I'm not on TikTok, as I'm sure you're all glad to know. But yeah, it should be. It'll be really interesting to see what new followers we get from a different demographic, would I say?
Well, we're well up there. We've added about 50 or so followers on TikTok over the last few days. I'll admit, for all the effort that went into the second one, which was the gym one, that one got far fewer views. The one that seems to have really clicked with everyone was the quick transition from off-season to new season. I'll be honest, the setup for that took about 30 seconds, as you can see the sign behind me. But I'll be honest, that's the style we're going to go with. There's not going to be huge production value put into these TikToks, and the vast majority will be done from here in my shed.
Wow. But we look forward to seeing whatever else comes.
Just reading Anthony's comment there. Sounds about right to me.
Dave communicates mostly through dots and dashes.
Dave, you kind of a nice segue into the conversation that we're about to get into, and that is the upcoming season. So I think we don't really have much else to talk about before we get into period one. So we're only going to do one period today, and that will be period one. So let's get stuck into that now. And as Dave has already kind of nicely kind of swayed us into this conversation, we are looking forward and we're looking ahead to the upcoming 2024-2025 Elite Ice Hockey season. We are going to only focus on the Elite League. Sorry, Anthony. I'm sure you're kind of like, you come on to listen to us talk really badly about everything else, but no, we're going to focus solely on the EIHL.
Look, the only thing happening in the NIHL right now is chemical leaks.
Well, yeah, I did see that actually this week. But let's start off with Dave. I know you missed out the kind of the middle of the off-season special that we had a few weeks back, and we talked a bit about the changes to the rosters, and we talked about obviously changes to management and a few other bits and pieces. So it'd be good to kind of get your thoughts on some of those things that are happening. But let's get stuck in and have a look at the rosters. I think John, you nicely put it onto one of our slides for us. So let me just chuck that on here. There we go. Let's take that bit off there. Great. And we'll get a look at the.
It's like we never stopped podcasting.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good. I thought it was pretty quick compared to normal.
Let me just consult my manual here on how to podcast.
Let's start off with the Belfast Giants. We're going to go alphabetical order. So that's because we're Belfast Giants fans, but we're going to go alphabetical order. So let's start with the Belfast Giants first and foremost. I want to get both your guys' thoughts. Obviously, the team have come together. Our final signings are done here in Belfast. Give me, I suppose, first off, I want to see from both of you which player, apart from maybe the obvious, are you most excited to see this season, either returning or new? Dave, let's go with you first.
Ooh, there's a couple of players that I really really do want to see. Ignoring the returnees, obviously we're really happy to see all those guys back. JJ, Scott Conway, and the like. These ones that are, we sort of know what we're getting, or at least we hope we know what we're getting. From the other stand, it's sort of there's quite a few that I'm looking forward to seeing. I can't wait to see Tom McCollum in the nets. I think he's going to be phenomenal. But that's sort of an easy one for me because that's generally where I would go. But the other one is Grant Mismash. Is it Mismash? I think he looks really good on paper, and some of his highlights have been absolutely phenomenal. And then on top of that, is Pierre Oliver Martin? No, Moran. Again, some of his highlights look phenomenal. I can't wait to sort of see. There's a lot of guys with so many new names and returnees. Yeah, it's gonna be one of those seasons where I think we're gonna see waves of talent. Dip in and dip out, and that's what we want. We want there to be people that can take the lead. I think that's what we were missing last year. We didn't have options, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we got a lot of injuries last year, and we know one of those injuries early on, and that was obviously Barrega, who's coming back this season for obviously to kind of get a second chance, as you will, of the Belfast Giants. So we'll be looking forward to kind of seeing what he can do with a full season. John, same question goes to yourself. I mean, obviously the Belfast Giants coming into this season after how their season last year ended, after what was a phenomenal season the year previous, which was when they won the treble. Obviously this year the Giants organization, powers that be, had to kind of come out during this off season and put a marker down to say, this is what we're planning to do. We need to kind of focus and we need to kind of claim back our titles. Do you think they've done that with this roster this year? Anybody jumping out at you that you're quite excited to see?
Absolutely, I think they have. We are an absolutely stacked roster. I think the problems that we had, now admittedly we were injury struck last season as well. Let's take that as a pill. Like that happened, but there were other issues. We were, compared to the incredibly successful Grand Slam season, we were leaky at the back and we just weren't scoring goals. This roster is absolutely stacked for this season. It's incredible. The names that kind of stick out to me, very, very similar to Dave. Tom McCollum coming in net, I think we are really setting ourselves up with a goalie tandem. I think we see a 50-50 split across the season with those two. I don't think we've got a 1 and a 2. I think we have a 1 and a 1A. Possibly even 1A, 1B. I think that's what we've got. We've got 2 brilliant starting netminders moving forward. We've had that for the last few seasons, but Wes has progressed over the last few seasons, especially playing with Besko. That has brought his game on massively. He had to, if he wanted any chance of getting any starts at all, when Besko was on the roster. So now, looking at Wes, looking at McCollum, I think we've got 2 incredibly good starting netminders. Looking on the back end, great to see Gabe Bass, Jeff Baum, absolute star. Jeff Baum, can't wait to see what he does this season. Obviously, back end of the season, the last couple of weeks going into playoffs and into the playoff final weekend, he missed out through injury, really bad timing. I expect him to come out firing at the start of the season and just be as impressive as he has been since he signed with the Giants. Couple of new names. Bo Hansen really sticks out to me on the blue line. I think that could be really interesting. I like some of the highlights that I've seen from him. And then in the forwards, we are stacked. We are absolutely stacked. We are an offensive machine this season. We've said the big names: JJ Pickenich, Scott Conway, Mark Cooper, all coming back. Even looking at let's call them Brits, even though he technically doesn't count as Ben Lake. Forever a fantastic guy to have on the forward lines. You mentioned Barriga. I can't wait to see what he does. I was on the Barriga bandwagon from last season. I got involved in a little bit of back and forward whenever I talked about Kiefer continually going out and poaching the best from within the league. I honestly still believe he did exactly that, and unfortunately that really bad injury at the start of the season around CHL time took him out the season. I can't wait to see what he's done with his fitness and how he's going to hit the ice as we move forward into the season. Jordan Kawaguchi is a big signing. He is coming out of brilliant university college hockey. He's played some incredible hockey over that season. I can't remember. Has he won a Kelly Cup? I'm not 100%. I think he's won one of the big trophies anyway. And to get him signed, that's a marker set down to bring a guy like that in. Obviously, it comes from the Friendship 4, where once again we're farming talent from that, and it's great to see. The other thing I really love about the signings that we've made this season is some of the two-way signings that we've made. We have got two-way signings up and down the league now, geographically speaking. So when it comes to potential road games and road series, 2-3 games on the road, we've got that possibility, as long as it works out with their main teams, to bring these young guys in and get them on the roster. If we get injuries down the line, we've got that option to bring these guys in when we're on what always tends to be a bit of a long road stretch. So I really, really like the two-way signings that have been made this season.
I mean, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there. I mean, in terms of the roster and the forwards, as you say, we do look stacked. We do look like we've really got good firepower. Now, in saying that, I don't want to be the person who does this. I don't want to be the person who says this. But every year, like, you kind of think, you look down the paper and you think to yourself, when you read things down, you're like, this looks amazing. Really strong. Really, positive going into it, and then we just seem to can't find the back of the net no matter how much we try. The last season particularly was that was the frustration, was that we had all these players last season who could perform pretty well, but just couldn't find the back of that net. Just no matter what was happening, just couldn't buy a goal at times. So we're hoping, obviously, that's kind of fixed this year. But I think the big difference this year is, as you say, John, is I mean, having those two-way contracts are always ideal. Just having those players as backups, and some of those players, I imagine, we'll probably maybe never see really here in Belfast. More so, probably on the road kind of players. So they'll be brought in whenever the team needs them, maybe across the water. I'm thinking that's the likes of Finley Howells and those types of players. That kind of will be kind of more England-based, kind of Scottish-based players who maybe will only play whenever they're away. The Giants are away. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
There's a huge benefit there, even just having them. And I know that people complain about the Elite League. The old adage is not a development league, but I think the Giants have shown that they're willing to put their money where their mouth is and invest in younger talent. That's over a couple of seasons now, and I think that's has to continue.
Right, but I think that's something that the other teams are possibly being strong-armed into slightly by the moves that were made by Sheffield last season. Big deal being made on social media about the Steelers and Steel Dogs. They've had joint launches. They've had joint inductions for their players over the last couple of days. They've brought the Steel Dogs and the Steelers together. It still has its criticisms about shared ownership, and is it actually going to be a farm team for the Steelers? Is that actually going to happen? But if you're the 9 other teams in the league, you have to take that risk seriously, and you have to start looking at talent elsewhere. And I think that's what we're starting to get. And Anthony, I think, gets it right on the head there. Wednesday Night Warriors, absolutely. You've got those midweek away games. This is where these guys are going to come into their own potentially.
Yeah, 100%. Shall we move on to Cardiff next?
Go on to the 9 other teams that we're going to spend about 5% of the time talking about, because we're like, yeah.
And John, I also like the fact that you decided to use the old Devils logo and not the new Devils logo in the top corner of the slide here.
Right enough.
Did you do that intentionally?
Do you know what? Wasn't even paying enough attention to realize that they changed the logo.
Oh dear, wrong Brandon. All
the Devils listeners have just tuned out. Sorry, guys.
The Devils will be in European action, obviously, this year again, similar to last season. Some familiar names as always, with the Devils coming back. You've got your ever-present Evan Mosey, you've got your Richardson, you've got your Josh Batch. You've got a bunch of players who are no strangers to that team. Joey Martin, another obviously captain, returning again. Usually, I think, is he the captain? Was he captain last year and coming back? I don't know. Anyway, yeah. We've got Joey Martin coming back as well. Any changes that are surprising, or do we feel it's like a normal Devils side moving into the season? John,
the Devils side. They'll be in red. They'll be in red. Sometimes they'll be in white. Sometimes, and as we'll see later on, they'll sometimes be in black. They are what they are. They've been a challenge. Don't get me wrong. Over the last few seasons, I think they've made a couple of interesting signings, but they've retained. I think of the big teams, with possibly the exception of Sheffield, they've retained a very, very strong core of players. They've definitely seen maybe a slightly higher turnover than they did the season before, but in the main, they look to be a fairly unaltered team. I don't expect to see a massive shift in them. I expect them to be fighting for 3rd, 4th, behind a couple of teams in particular. But yeah, they're a top mid-table team at the moment. I wait to be shocked as the season goes on, but I don't see that they've added anything in particular that I have to worry about as a Giants fan.
It's not that I don't agree with you, John, but I think that their strength comes from that. I know strength comes from the unaltered state. They were good last year. They were good in a league that was tough, especially with a very hard Sheffield team to play against. They were relatively consistent. They were strong in the defense, and their netminding was solid. If they keep it up and they continue to add that cohesion with a strong group of players, you'd be very surprised what might come out of the other end. You've got guys there that we've already talked about, but even guys like Ben Davies. Ben Davies can score those big clinch goals. When it's needed. You don't see his name every week, but you see his name whenever it's a close game and someone has to find the winner. You see his name pop up, and that's it's it's not always a bad thing when you see big turnover, so I think that they'll be interesting to watch. I definitely wouldn't be counting them out.
Yeah. I guess it's obviously Pete Russell's second year in charge down there in Cardiff. And I guess after the first year, I suppose it was tough for him in the first year because I think there was a lot expected from him with it getting started there in Cardiff, given the year before in Cardiff. And I guess this year's second year, I suppose people again are assuming, well, he's had time to kind of settle in. He knows the way things go now in Cardiff, so they're expecting maybe a bit of an improvement in terms of where they finish. Obviously, they want to finish top and they want to finish first. You think Pete has done enough there to kind of do that for this season, Dave?
I do. I do think that again, as I said before, that stability now. There's second year with the same coach. The team's relatively unchanged. You have some of the big characters returning. Hopefully, we'll continue. You see, continue improvement. But the proof will be when we start seeing them play. Especially whenever you don't see any, from an outsider looking in, you don't see any big hallmarker signings. You don't get the the to draw your interest in. What you do see is quality coming back, and that's always a good thing. And we'll see. We will see early on if that's enough. And I do think they're in with a good shot, just in my opinion.
Do you think, Dave, taking your point there that there's strength in not massively altering the lineup? Because I wasn't paying attention, I completely forgot, Marty, until you said earlier that they're obviously in Europe, they're in the Conti Cup. That traditionally is the trophy that we see the Elite League teams having a chance at. We've seen, is it twice now, teams in the Elite League have lifted the Conti Cup. So is Pete Russell, with his European background as well, having been over in Germany, the Dell 2, for a while, he knows European hockey. Is he looking at potentially an early season trophy? Because shockingly, a European trophy can somehow get sorted out before the Challenge Cup.
Well, I mean, if you think about last season, Cardiff did get through to that final weekend of the Conti Cup last season, and they hosted it in Cardiff. Pete's first year. I mean, he'll want to repeat that again this year with that success. Only obviously want to go a step further and successfully complete that tournament and as the winners. So I'd say partly, do I think the focus will be on that Continental Cup kind of run over in terms of instead of domestic. It takes us back, I suppose, to the question that I suppose the decision that Sheffield made last season not to take any kind of European hockey and focus solely on their domestic run, and it worked for them last season. I don't want to say, but it did work for them last season. Maybe you don't agree with me, but they didn't. They made a decision not to do it, and then they won all the domestic trophies that were available. Something he said there. So whether or not Cardiff are focusing on that Continental Cup again more, and the roster's designed that way around, or are they going to,
Yeah.
It's a question.
I do think, there's always a risk. One thing that my brain completely glossed over was, I didn't even hear it announced, but the Gleason Fournier re-sign after being away for a few years. That's a fairly big marker. I think they're going to be one of those teams that we should watch. Going forward, it's not as clear cut, I think, as a lot of the things where you would see big markers. There's a lot of movement from other teams. Was it Brett Perrier? There his name is, from the Nottingham Panthers, stuff like that. So a lot of stuff. Perlini, there you go. That's why you're here, John. Guys that are sort of proven entities in the league. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Let's move on to our next team. So we have obviously the Coventry Blaze. Next, Coventry, as we mentioned before, with new head coach there in Kevin Moore, coming from Nottingham Panthers from last season's assistant coach. Kevin obviously knows the league, but this is his first time as a head coach for the team, putting together I suppose a team for the first time. Anything, I suppose, again, any thoughts or any opinions, anything jump out at you for this roster? Any of the signings or any stories coming out of this, John?
I'm going to say this for the rest of the teams, other than a couple of the Scottish ones, that I really haven't looked at the rosters too heavy. What I will say is that there is with this team and actually one other team that we'll come on to talk about, there's a buzz about Coventry for the first time in a few seasons. They've obviously made the change at the bench. They're making some significant player changes as well. I think a few. Am I right in thinking that a few players have come from Nottingham across into Coventry, along with Kevin? So that'll be interesting. We're going to see a very, very different kind of Coventry playing on that Coventry ice, but also their media output was always decent, but it's much, much better at the moment. And I don't know whether that's come from the coach, whether it's come from just a change of ethos, a new era, let's call it, because that's what every team calls it when they go into this sort of, let's not call it a rebuild, but it's close as. There is a buzz around Coventry, and I think that the middle of the table need to pay particular attention to Coventry this season. And I'll say it about a couple of those mid-table teams. The Challenge Cup is there to be had for these teams.
Yeah, fair enough. Dave?
Big shout out to Matt Robson, Iowa Wild netminder from a few years back. Solid AHL netminder, sort of 90% save percentage. It's not going to win you trophies in that league, but there's a big difference between the AHL and the Elite League. He is also a University of Minnesota alumni, so it's he's got serious caliber. Played for the Cincinnati Cyclones as well in the ECHL. He's a solid netminder, and I recognized his name fairly early on when his name was announced, and I think that he'll do interesting things in the Elite League with the style of hockey being more what he's used to. It'll just be interesting to see what he does on the bigger ice. I know he's been around Europe for a bit and hasn't done fantastic things, but we'll see if the change up to the more North American-y style hockey helps him a bit more. If there's more net presence, maybe he'll find his old ways again. Other than that, it was not a huge amount had jumped out at me without doing a lot of research. His name had, as I said, just flagged to me. But again, I agree with John. There's definitely a bit of noise, very positive noise coming out of their social medias and their fan base, which will be really interesting to see if that translates.
Yeah, they've made some good strides with their social media, but I liked their social media at times. It was quite tongue in cheek sometimes last season, where they were kind of just on the edge of kind of borderline of what was deemed as maybe a bit too close to the bone. But no, I pretty much like it. But we'll talk about their weird decisions about warm-up jerseys later on, because we've got a warm-up jersey which was, in my opinion, abysmal. But we'll talk about that later on.
Before we move on, let's bring in Anthony's comment here, because I think it's worth pointing out, because again, he knows these guys better than we do. Brinley Caps coming into Coventry. Anthony saying don't sleep on the guy. He's jumping the national division and moving straight into elite. So that's one definitely, if you're a Coventry fan or if you're anyway interested, keep an eye on Brinley Cap.
And no 14 either in their roster. There was no 14 for the Devils.
I'm going to bring this up later on because I have a bone to pick with the Elite League. It's not like me, but I've got a bone to pick.
That would be that's very surprising, John. I didn't imagine that. Okay, let's move on to one of the first of our Scottish teams, and that's in the form of Dundee Stars. John, is this one of the Scottish teams you want to talk about, or was it Fife and Glasgow the two ones you're focusing on?
Dundee, I want to make the surprise signing for me of the off season. Ben O'Connor.
Yeah,
Ben O'Connor going from the extreme south of the league to the extreme north of the league, and an absolutely sound guy as well.
Legend.
Fan
of the show.
If you haven't Yep. If you haven't listened to us before, then last season Ben was the first one to come on to our 14 with 14. And even better than that, he even said to Dave and I when we went down to Guildford last season to basically hang about after the game, get a catch up, get a chat. He's an absolute gentleman, and I look forward to catching up with him now that he's just up the road in Dundee. If he needs any advice on good fish and chip shops, I'm more than welcome to exploring that with him up in and around Dundee and in the Fife area. But yeah, I think Ben's an outstanding signing for Dundee. He's an outstanding D-man. Yes, I've never spoken to him and said this, that we continually take the mick out of him a little bit for that hand pass to Colin Shields for that goal. But other than that really one mistake, let's call it, he is one of the most consistent British D-men in the game right now. And he will light things up for Dundee on the blue line. So I really look forward to seeing what he does here north of Hadrian's Wall.
Yep. Dave, any thoughts on Dundee before we move on?
No, just totally agree. I think that as a character in the dressing room, I think he'll do wonders up there.
Yeah. Moving on to our next Scottish team, and I think this is the team that secretly, I think John, you mentioned this on our social media there during the week, but I think this is secretly the team that we all have a little soft spot for. The Fife Flyers. For me, this team looks so different compared to any other Fife Flyers team I've seen in the past, or in the recent years anyway. I just think that the choices this year by their head coach to reach out to players that he's known from Continental Cup years, to reach out to players who are from, those, as we talked before, the several players from Kazakhstan. There's a lot of players coming in that have definitely caught my attention, and I'm pretty excited about seeing this lineup for the Fife Flyers. So I can't imagine what Fife Flyers fans are thinking right now in relation to this season. Now, that's putting a lot of like, not pressure, because obviously we, but that's like us saying, we're saying that's, and you can imagine other people saying the same. So, John, let's go with you. I'm sure this is one of the teams you're also wanting to talk about.
Yeah. The Kazakh signing straight off, these are Continental Cup winners. These guys all walked away with the Continental Cup with their Kazakh team before. So Tom Cullen bringing in these guys, that is a statement of intent. He may not be saying we're going to win the Elite League, but he is damn well saying we're going to be the best Scottish team on the ice. That's 4 of the biggest signings I have seen any of the 3 Scottish teams make for a long time. And like I say, that is an absolute statement. Other players that stand out to me, looking through their roster, Oliver LeBlanc in D looks fantastic.
Phenomenal.
And Lucas Chido. Second year in Fife, was fantastic last season. Obviously, Fife have poached the other big name from Fife from last season. But holding on to Chido, I think, is absolutely brilliant. And Johnny Curran, being in Fife this season, that's brilliant. Again, I've said this, what is this now, our 8th season, our 9th season of doing this podcast, and I say every single season, I hope I'm proved right this year. Fife are a team that need to be looked at by all the other teams in the league. There are no gimmies in Kirkcaldy anymore. There are no easy points to be had in Kirkcaldy. Shane Owen remaining in nets, remaining there, basically because they've got their Kirkcaldy clause into him. He's found a local woman, and he's staying for the long haul, it appears. On his night, he can help you win games. And we've seen that for the last couple of seasons. But the signings that they've made, that all comes to a much, much improved team. And let's not take away, the biggest thing that they did last season was keep Tom Cullen.
Yeah.
And I hope he is here for another couple of seasons.
He's
what more,
really breathed
what else?
life into it.
He really has. I was going to ask before we move on to our next team is what more delicacies, John, has he still the taste and drink? Because I know that was the whole thing last season with games.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to go with now. It'll be interesting to see what the Fife socials end up doing. But I do actually know one of their media guys, and I'm doing a 10K race that I know he's doing on Saturday. So hopefully I'll catch up with them and get a sneak peek of what they're going to be doing.
We'll come back to Fife later on. We'll come back to most of the teams, but we'll come back to Fife later on when we're talking about jerseys, because again, they've knocked it out of the park. But we'll get to that.
Just as we're about to step away as well, just we can't have the elephant in the room with Martin Letang as a signing from Sheffield last year. I think that was another phenomenal marker.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on. We have the Glasgow Clan, so the last of our Scottish teams coming up now. Glasgow obviously put out their statement at the end of the season to say that they apologised for, I suppose, the team and the way the team put stuff together the season before, in terms of not reaching the full potential that they hoped they would, and to the disappointment of the fans, and that it wasn't acceptable, and that they would refocus this coming season to kind of make sure that they put a team out there that I suppose meets the expectations of the fans. I suppose there's a lot of pressure on there, but do we think Glasgow has done that with the team that they've put together? Dave, go with you first.
You know what? This sounds really random, but I haven't really been pulled. Like, there's names there that I recognise, and obviously if I recognise them, they've done something good. But none of their socials or announcements have pulled me in the same way as some of the other teams in the league have. Fife, for example.
I know why that is. I know why that is. Because they don't engage with any other media outlets, so they try to do.
True.
No, I'm being totally on the level here. Like, yes, I'm annoyed about the response that we got from Glasgow last season, because I really don't agree with the line that they took when they spoke to us, which was to say that they don't engage with fan podcasts. Well, sorry guys, but we're not fans. They're trying to do it all themselves. So they're trying to do their news pieces. They're trying to do all their video stuff. They're also trying to do their own podcasts. So they're putting up their player interviews. Murph is doing all the player interviews. They're putting them up on their socials. They're trying to do it all themselves. That's great. That's fantastic. You've got your core fan base. You've got your people that already follow you on your socials. Sorry, if you want to grow that, maybe look outside of those traditional routes that you've always taken.
Yeah. We
still stand ready, and I've said it, and I've put an email out to the league again already in the off-season and said we would love to work with everyone. So far, not really had much response, let's be totally honest. A lot of the teams seem to be gatekeeping a lot of their socials side, except for the Norms, who are really, really good to us. But Glasgow are, I think, a particular problem of trying to do it all themselves, keep all of their stuff to themselves, and that's great. Their fans might be really, really engaged with that, but if you're on the outside, you don't really know what's happening. I'm not paying attention to every tweet that comes out from the Glasgow Clan. What I want to see is it come through other channels. I'd like to see it come through potentially some of the traditional media as well, but that's just not happening. But that's the Glasgow method, and good luck with it, guys.
Yeah. Let's move on to our next team, and that's the Guildford Flames. Guildford, I suppose after a year, 2020, I'm trying to get my dates right in my head. 2022-2023 season, the Guildford had a phenomenal year, obviously pushing the league right up to the end, pushing for the top spot. Obviously taken over by the Belfast Giants just to the final hurdle. Last year, then the Guildford Flames were coming into a season where they, I suppose, had large expectations on their head to deliver for a second year running. Some people will say that they kind of continued suit and they kind of performed well last season. Some people will maybe argue that maybe they just didn't hit the same form and they didn't hit the same same steps as they did from that previous season. Do we feel, given the fact that last year they kind of, after what happened last year, that there's less pressure this year on Guildford to, as there was last year, coming to the start of it? Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that the going in without that sort of monkey on their back they should be able to do more. And then they have the same benefit of like what we have, their golden boys coming back after a not so successful year at Belfast, with Tedesco returning. I think that'll be interesting. Plus, they're also getting some baked in chemistry with Sean Norris also making the move from Belfast over, and Travis Brown um, moving over. So it's going to be really good to see. I was just reading Anthony's, so Talbot as well played with Norris. So
Forever in my heart. Forever in my heart.
Maybe we'll get an interview with him this time.
What Norris jersey?
He's in the right place for us to get an interview now.
What Norris jersey? What Norris jersey did you get? That's not a game worn, is it?
Yeah.
What one was that?
Playoffs.
Oh yeah. You have to play one. That's right. Remember.
But that's standard. I buy a jersey and then somebody changes teams. That's why I've got a PK Subban jersey hanging right there. I've got a Shea Weber jersey that he didn't even see the rest of the off season. I don't know what else I've got hanging around here. But yeah, I'm the sword of Damocles for signings. If I win a game worn, or if I buy a game worn or anything, then you can be damn well guaranteed that player's not sticking around.
John, obviously Dave, highlighting those Belfast Giants contingent that are heading into Guildford. Obviously we can add Lewis Hook, kind of in there, but not. Yeah.
Travis Brown. Let's talk about today's signing. Travis Brown.
We talked about. Yeah, Dave mentioned that.
That's big. I like Travis. I get that potentially with the changes that Belfast were looking to make, there maybe just wasn't the roster space for him this season in Belfast. That's tough for Travis. That's hockey. It's a business. It may not have been his choice, but I'm glad to see him land somewhere like Guildford. I think he could do great things there. I'm not going to suggest for a second that he was part of the problem last season in Belfast, because I honestly don't think he was. But he had hot and cold. Now, when we got to the back end of the season, the people who were very verbally doubting Travis Brown, they kind of had to take their medicine, because in the run-up to playoffs, and especially during playoffs, he was standout. He was lights out. He was fantastic on the blue line. He was great. His two-way play was fantastic going into playoffs. So, seeing him go into Guildford, for one part, I'm glad to see him get that signing. For the other part, that's someone that I want the Giants to be watching for, because if nothing else, he knows Adam Keefe, he knows him as a coach, so I want to make sure that people are watching him, because he's going to know some of the systems.
His skating ability last year was unbelievable.
Yep. Other than that, other than those sort of Belfast poaches, if you want, I haven't really taken too much interest in Guildford's signings this season, but what I do like to see is the brick core that they've retained, and that's something that Guildford's always been incredibly good at. So it's really, really nice to see that continue in Guildford. And again, I think they're in that top middle sort of position as we move into the season.
Yep. Moving on, we have next Manchester Storm. Manchester Storm, we kind of expect, usually like most seasons, Manchester come out all guns blazing at the very start of the season, usually performing pretty well, usually in Challenge Cup as well as the league. So we'll probably see something that's similar, I would say, at the start of this season. Do they have the depth of the team to kind of carry them forward more so, rather than the first initial maybe 10 games that we usually see that in? John, your thoughts there for Manchester?
Biggest one for me, glad to see Dallas Earhart stick around there. I really, really rate him on the blue line. I think he's a brilliant skater. Every time I see Manchester, whether it's on a webcast or in person, listen out to the commentary, or just as you're watching the game, look at his work rate. It's incredible. If you're watching a webcast, you will always hear his name, because he does a lot of work on the ice. He is brilliant to watch. He's someone that I would not be shocked if the Giants, or with all due respect, one of the bigger teams were to try and poach across, because I really do rate him as a D-man. As far as their forwards are concerned, Cam Crutchlow sticking around is fantastic for them. Captain from last season. So again, looks like he's becoming a bit of a franchise guy there. And again, realistically, have I paid too much attention? No. The one that I did comment on socials whenever it was announced before the end of the season was the extension for Lauren Hewlett, because he's number 14. It gives us another season. We've fingers crossed that someone in Manchester will pick up their emails and say, yes, would you like to speak to Lauren? Yes, I absolutely would. The cheek of it is, I said, in my tweet, I said, so you're saying there's a chance that we could interview him? They liked it, the cheeky feckers. They liked it. They haven't answered a single email in the last 3 seasons, but the cheeky feckers liked that tweet.
The one question I did have for you boys was obviously Manchester bringing in the big guns this season, and bringing in I suppose the second is this the second season for the team? Joe Morrow again coming back for the Manchester Storm for a second season in a row. Obviously we know his caliber from his days playing for Boston and Montreal and Winnipeg. 50 games last year, I think it was. He played all together. Wasn't massive scoring last, shall we say. I think it was only 9 goals maybe in total. But again, he's a defenseman, so is that good enough for a defenseman? It's great that I suppose that they've been able to keep hold of him, I guess, Dave.
Yeah, but those big names, if they're not producing day on day, they do add stability to a team and just make the team better. Even if it's not them that's making the goals, just them being there and doing things right at a level that is above the elite leagues just makes the whole team better. We've seen it with guys like Walser, that just pulled the level of the team up, and I think he does the same with Manchester.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. We got next up. We have the Nottingham Panthers. Nottingham Panthers. We obviously know we know what happened last year. Nottingham Panthers will be looking to kind of have a fresh start and a fresh look this year, which I think they have done both from a coaching perspective, obviously bringing in new coaching, but also relatively fresh team, shall we say? A lot of the Sheffield, the Nottingham players from the previous season, moving on to other places. Rightly probably for them, that was the right choice for them to do. Coming into this season, what are our expectations for Nottingham Panthers, do you think, John?
I think they're a team to watch. They've obviously made the switch in coaching that they have. We've got the stalwart of the Elite League and many, many other leagues has made his way back. And look, he knows his hockey, doesn't he? Corey Nielsen is not a coaching name to be sniffed at. He's an incredibly successful Elite League coach as well. He's brought in his son, Logan, into the team. And that'll be incredibly interesting to see what the young guy does, being coached by his dad in potentially pressure situations. That'll be very, very interesting to watch that dynamic. But there's a lot of big changes. The Nottingham Panthers are going to go through a resurgence this season, I feel. They are definitely one to watch. They're practically a new team. Some of their Brits have played, or a lot of their Brits, have played with each other before. A lot of them are actually products of the Nottingham system. Ollie Bettridge, Jordan Kelsall, for example. Jordan, another really, really nice guy, spoke to us for 14 on 14 last season. And it'll be good to see those guys, because there's not really... there is a contingent of young Brits coming through with the likes of Ollie Endicott and Logan Nielsen, but that Brit core is not veteran, but they're well on their way to becoming veteran. with a lot of the new import signings that they've made, those Brits are going to be really important to getting those guys settled into Nottingham, settled into the system, and getting them on the ice ready to perform right from the start of the season, and convincing these guys that, look, you're new to this format, you're new to the fact that the league format is actually the trophy that everyone wants. We need to hit the ground going from September. So they'll be a really interesting team to watch this season.
Yeah. Just going to make one correction, John. I don't mean to correct you, but just one correction. The head coach this season is actually Danny Stewart, not Corey Nielsen.
Or Danny Stewart, sorry.
Yeah, Danny Stewart.
I was about to say I didn't think, I thought I missed something. Some change.
Yeah, no, it's okay. If I remember, it was the switch in terms of Coventry took the assistant coach from Nottingham, and then Nottingham took the head coach from Coventry. So it'll be interesting to see, as we always talked about, Danny Stewart, maybe with a slightly bigger budget. What can he do? Obviously, we know what he's done in Coventry previously. Dave, what do you think? I mean, we didn't get your thoughts on the Danny Stewart switch over. What's your thoughts on that?
I really do like and rate Danny Stewart. I think he's a fantastic coach, and it's for the same reasons that I like Kiefer, and he shows a bit of emotion. He seems to care about every win, lose or draw. You know, you can tell that every single thing weighs on him. And some coaches, I know that they're putting a stiff upper lip, sort of trying to look like they're unflappable, but sometimes you do need to see the emotions, and I think he shows that he really does care about the teams he coaches, and it'll be really interesting to see how he does working with Omar in there, and to see how they shape a team, and based on what they've done so far, it does look really, really interesting, and we'll see how it all pans out in the season. I don't know an awful lot of the new names, but yeah.
Sorry, I knew that Corey was in the league. I totally forgot that it was Glasgow.
Yeah, take over in Glasgow. Yeah. Don't worry, it's okay.
And I was right. He did bring his son into the team that he's coaching, and sorry, I got that completely wrong. It's Cade Nielsen that he's brought into Glasgow. So what I talked about was complete nonsense, except that it was sort of true.
It's okay. You're fine. Don't worry. We're going to switch over to the last roster to talk about, and that is the current defending treble-winning Sheffield Steelers. I feel sick saying that, but yeah. Hopefully we won't be saying that coming to the end of the season. But Sheffield Steelers, I guess, coming into the season, I suppose not a massive change to their lineup. They're kind of bringing in kind of players that are well known for that team. They're kind of trying to bring back
Sorry. Can we talk about their 5 netminders?
I was just about to get on to that. Let me finish saying what I was going to say, and then I was going to say about the 5 netminders. I was going to say that they have been able to successfully hold on to a big core pack of that treble winning season. I think the whole running conversation of the whole running social media thing over this off season had been the Belfast Giants bringing back some of their treble winning season players versus the Sheffield Steelers treble winning players. Which treble winning team will be the best? So we're waiting to see. But yes, John, coming back to what you're saying, 5 goaltenders, 5. What is that about?
Did you see their post today?
No.
With, the
is that another one?
Minders all standing with their lids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they've all got custom Sheffield lids. Let alone signing these guys and paying their wages. That must have cost them a fortune.
Crazy.
Like, where's the salary cap? Where's the perks and benefits? Like, where's the gap start between the salary cap and all the perks and benefits that you start giving guys with that? Like, it's absolutely insane. Now, I get that they're having a crack at the CHL this season. I get that they want to make a real push for retaining as many trophies as possible, if not them all. Because look, if a team could do it, it would have been either the Belfast Giants from the season before last or the Sheffield Steelers of last season, which is more or less, as you said, the Sheffield Steelers of this season with 1 or 2 alterations. But 5 netminders, holy hell! You just stack them one on top of each other in the crease and just hope that nobody notices that you've got 5 in there.
It's unbelievable. Like maybe at some point they're thinking, let's just stick out a full line of goaltenders out on the ice, just defense, penalty kill, stick out five goaltenders. Yeah, that was definitely something that caught my eye. And you're right. I seen that image today on social media, and I thought the same. I was like, 1, 2. I was like, is this right? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Can we talk about how they're also set up? Now I get that there's a couple of two ways in there as well with a lot of their players, but if they were to stack up, like they're gearing themselves up to play 4.5 line hockey. Like that's a big roster. Like, it's one thing to joke and say that you've got the revolving door of signings and everything. I suppose you can't say that if you just sign absolutely everyone at the start of the season, and no matter how many injuries you take, you don't have to sign anyone else.
They have 29. Hang on, do they have 29 signings? Is that right? Yeah, 29. Jeez, okay. Mm-hmm.
It's a big roster.
It's massive. Massive. Dave,
I was going to say, people in glass houses. I'm sure that the Giants have probably signed about 29 people. For a while there, it was every other day there was a signing coming out for the Giants.
If we know the Giants, they'll start small, but then by the time it comes into the season, people will be like, where did the money come from to sign yet another player? Oh, look, they signed another player. But this is definitely a 52 coach team here. They'll be definitely needing a 52 coach full. There'll be any space. Fox did say that the last Brit spot would be rotated around amongst the two-way guys, the Dogs. Oh, interesting.
And this is true, and this sent shockwaves. It's over-egging it to say it sent shockwaves, but yeah, it is good to see. And I think, again, we talked earlier about the two ways that the Giants and some of the other teams have put in place. This relationship now that the Dogs and the Steelers have is going to lead to more of these excessive numbers of two-way deals to cover teams. But that decision by Fox to take his last Brit slot and rotate it amongst the Steel Dogs that he feels have that in them to step up into the Steelers, that's massive, and it's going to be very, very interesting to watch how that progresses through the season.
Yep. Guys, well, that's us for the rosters. I mean, we always talk about, obviously on paper, we can see all these rosters on paper, and we kind of see, and we can kind of look at their hockey DB, and we can look at all of their past performances and stuff, but it's not until, and it sounds cliche, but it's not until these teams step on the ice that we get a full idea and rundown of what those players are going to look like. The first time we're going to get to see that will obviously be for the preseason games. Preseason games that we've already talked about. Cardiff Devils had 2 preseason games this past weekend, the 16th and 17th of August. This coming weekend, we have the Cardiff Devils versus a Great Britain team getting prepared for the Winter Olympic qualifiers. And then we'll see the Belfast Giants take on the Cardiff Devils then on the 24th as well. This coming weekend we have Dundee taking on Fife. We have Nottingham Panthers. What is UQT? University of Quebec.
I did research. I have all this stuff written down for the teams that aren't local. UQTR are the University of Quebec Troy Riviere from the U Sports League. So they're here. They're playing a few games against different teams. Martin, if you want to keep going down through the list when you get confused about one of the foreign names, just give me a shout. I've got it all here ready to go.
Also, this coming weekend, we have the Manchester Storm versus the Sheffield Steelers. We have the Solway Sharks versus the Glasgow Clan. We have another Great Britain game, which is Great Britain taking on the Belfast Giants, and that's in Cardiff as well. We have Manchester Storm also versus the UQTR. We have Fife Flyers versus Dundee Stars, and we have the Solway Sharks versus Glasgow Clan. Sheffield Steelers will take on the Nottingham Panthers. What a surprising game for the first of what will probably be the 100 games this season that they will play off against each other. So that's pre-season there. We also then will move on to the following weekend, which will have the Dundee Stars take on UQTR. They're really getting around, aren't they, this off season? We'll then have the what we call the university. I suppose University Challenge, as I like to call it, here in Belfast, where we'll see the Belfast Giants host 2 universities from Canada. We have the Belfast Giants versus the Carleton University. Then we'll also see Carleton University will be taking on University of Alberta then in a game against each other on the 31st. And then Belfast then will take on University of Alberta then on Sunday the 1st. I'll come back to that in a second. We'll also see MK Lighton versus Coventry Blaze. We have Manchester versus Nottingham. We have Cardiff and Sheffield. Manchester versus pronunciation there, John, for me, please. Thank you very much.
Lausitzer-Fuchsche, who are a German team from the Del 2.
Great. Five Flyers, we say, will take on UKTR. Guildford Flames are going to be going up against Gothiques de Amiens. Is that how you say it?
Amiens, but close.
Yep, close.
They're a French team from the League Magnus.
We have that last weekend prior to, the last second week. There's 2 weeks before the season will officially kick off, but Coventry Blaze will take on Mosquitoes Essen. Dundee will also take on UKTR. Jeez, they're going around them all. Guildford will take on the Gothics. Nottingham Panthers are going to go up against the
Lausitzer-Fuchsche.
Thank you very much. Sheffield Steelers will take on Cardiff Devils. Nottingham Panthers up against Cardiff. Coventry Blaze will go up against Kiev Capitals. Cardiff will be up against Nottingham Panthers, and then Coventry again a second game on 2 days running against Kiev Capitals. So a good tasty looking games, especially those games that we like to see where they're bringing in some teams from outside of the Elite League. We always like those games, and there was intrigue. Now, people will say whenever the Elite League teams go up against like the university teams, what really are they getting from it? But as we always remember, it's preseason, it's friendlies, it's exactly what you want to see. It's just kind of getting your feet warm, getting your legs under you. And people will say, "Oh, but sure, you can do that with Elite League teams." But it's more exciting for, I think, for the fans of those teams to see just other teams coming in that aren't the usual teams that you're seeing run in the mill every single weekend. Right? Would you be
something to the teams that are coming over? You know, any team that comes to your stadium, your arena, takes away memories, and those players, as we have seen with the Friendship Four, remember, and you don't know who's playing where that might end up.
That's not entirely true. I'm not entirely sure that young guy who went up against Jim Vandermeer remembers anything.
I say there's a lot of players that don't remember going up against Jim Vandermeer.
So hopefully, whoever you are, whoever you support, whatever team you support, hopefully you'll get along to some of those preseason games and get your first taste of hockey for the season. I mean, it's
Guys,
coming up this weekend. Sorry, go ahead.
What are you heading to any of these?
Yeah, so I'll only be going to the one of these preseason games, and that'll be the September the 1st. That's the Sunday the 1st, which is Belfast Giants will take on University of Alberta, and I think Dave, you're coming along to that game too. And also that will be my son's first game, which I'm very excited about. So he'll be in the stands with me on that day, in his little Giants jersey. And he might only be there for one period, but he's coming along anyway for a bit of it anyway. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah, can't wait. I just there's a lot happening that last weekend of August, and I just unfortunately there's only that one game I could make it to. So yeah.
Dave, are you making any more?
No, just the one. I decided not to take the proverbial. Obviously it's going to be a long season, so take as much as we can before now and it's starting. So spend time with the family before it all starts.
Yep.
Well, I'm hoping. I haven't checked, and I don't know if she's watching right now whether this acts as permission. But I'm hoping to go and see the Flyers take on Troy Revere. I'm not going to make anything this weekend, but I'd very, very much like to go and see what this new Five Flyers team looks like against a team that are coming in of the quality of Troy Revere. So that'll be very interesting. I'm hoping to get down there. Whether or not I do anything for the podcast, I'm not 100%. It depends how much time I've got to give to it. If absolutely nothing else, I'll do a TikTok dance outside the rink and probably fall into a pothole and break both my legs.
Oh, you have to do the Vicar Dibley. Jump into.
Do you know the worst thing? Do you know what they're actually
yeah.
doing right now? They're doing roadworks right past the rink right now, and all of the comments have been, "Look, can we have the bits of the old road just dumped in the car park to fill the holes?"
If your video
so far doesn't look like they're doing it.
If your video doesn't include a transition of you in like fisherman waders walking through the car park, then into your hockey gear, then I think I'll be very disappointed. To be fair, so yeah, if you are looking your preseason fix, this is the fixtures for you. So hopefully we'll see you down at the rink. Anyway, me and Dave will see some of you down there on the 1st of September. I'm very much looking forward to it. It's been a longer off season than normal because obviously my son was born at the end of the last season. So I think my official last game at the SSE was, I think, the start of March. So for me, this is the longest off season I think I've felt.
So you're officially, as of a couple of weekends time, a hockey dad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Welcome to the club, buddy.
Yeah. Let's move on to I suppose the part we've been looking forward to the most. I hope that's the next part. And this is our jerseys for the 2024-2025 season. And this is obviously just the jerseys that have been released so far. There's still some teams that haven't released yet. Sheffield Steelers, I think, is one, and Guildford, but we kind of know what Guildford's going to look like anyway. I don't think Glasgow have released theirs. They've released preseason ones, but we're going to look at them.
There's actually a couple of the jerseys that we've got on here that are just preseason jerseys, not regular season, that haven't been released yet.
Okay, so we're going to start off obviously with our very own Belfast Giants. Belfast Giants are doing a commemorative 25th anniversary, but we should highlight and make this clear. Belfast Giants did this last time for the 10th anniversary, and it confused the hell out of everyone. It's 25 seasons, not 25 years. Let's just make it clear. It's not 25 years, it's 25 seasons in the league, in the league. Well, Elite League and also obviously the Super League. But it's 24 years as a team. Anyway, so the Giants are doing a 2000s inspired jersey for their home, away, and also the Challenge Cup one. Going with a new style teal jersey where they've kind of taken the original style teal from 2000 and mixed it in with the current palette of when they've done the rebrand to create a new style teal, was what I've heard. They then have done their home one, which is obviously that full teal. Their away one is usual is the white with the silver arms and green teal arms. And then their Challenge Cup jersey for this coming season is the black Belfast Giants logoed teal arm jersey, which I think is my favorite out of the three. Boys, what do you guys think? John, you were kind of torn about it a wee bit whenever we were in the group chat, but what's your thoughts on it?
I'm still torn. I'll put it that way. The home jersey doesn't sing to me at all this season. What I will say is some of the photos that came out of the season ticket event at the arena, the colours on the screen that you can see just now don't reflect the jersey at all. The colours look better on the jersey than they do here on the sort of mock-up that was put out. The away jersey is probably my favourite, if I'm totally honest. I found myself in the last couple of seasons really leaning to the white jerseys for some reason. I'm not sure why, but with this colour mash, I feel like the white works best. The Challenge Cup jersey is nice, don't get me wrong. If I won a shirt off the back of a Challenge Cup jersey, I wouldn't throw it in the bin. But it's just not I don't know. There's just nothing really singing to me about this season's jerseys. And I hate to be the one to say it again, but I'm back in this thing of, you look at our merch, you look at our jerseys, they're a little bit lackluster when you look at some of the other stuff around the league. And I get that, like, it's a team uniform. It's there to show that they're Belfast Giants players and not Coventry Blaze players. That's fine as long as it hits the main ticks. That's all it has to do. But it'd be nice if there was a little bit. And I get there's been a little bit of thought put in with the 25th anniversary season and all the rest of it, but it's just a little bit lackluster, along with a lot of the merch that's currently available in the store. The teamwear, fantastic. Teamwear is great.
I was going to say, don't get me started on the merch because we could be here all night and we don't have that time. Dave, let's get your thoughts on that before we move on. Your jerseys.
I love them. I love them all. I think I sort of disagree with John with the idea that they're lackluster.
Oh yeah, that's unusual.
I think that they've taken some of the imagery of their original jerseys in the sense of the block color of the early the late 90s, early 2000s, and put it into the jersey for release today. I do like the added silver. It adds a touch without overpowering the jersey. It does just give you a wee extra change. Having the acknowledging the 25th is also huge. And Marty, I do agree the Challenge Cup would be my favorite this year. Followed by the away, then the home, but I do like all three. I was chatting to Aaron, and he really likes the away jersey as well.
Can
Yeah,
I
at least
throw one
at
other
least
thing in? Can I throw one
yes.
other thing in? Just when I'm looking, this is not a criticism. Has Steneline gotten slightly smaller?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
That's
yeah,
a positive for me.
Yeah,
It's even smaller on the black one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that at least this jersey this year, I actually am actually interested, and I've already made my intentions clear to my wife that I'm buying one this year, because last year I had absolutely no interest in buying the jerseys last year because I really didn't like that weird tie-dye 70s obsession they had.
Yeah.
But this one,
just sitting in tie-dye, it's like, nah, I didn't like it.
I didn't. This year definitely. I know I'm going to put my order in, and I think I'll probably try to go for the Challenge Cup.
Still have one thing I dislike, and I'll dislike it forever. Is the Warrior W is still that stupid plastic holographic thing, and I don't like it.
It's such a small thing to really not like.
I don't like it's. I would be fine if it was like the NHLs, down at the bottom. It's just the fact it's right in the center of the chest and it's holographic and rubber and I don't like it.
Okay, let's move on to our next jerseys, and that is the Cardiff Devils. Cardiff Devils, obviously with that rebranding going on, makes their jerseys, obviously it fits in with the jerseys. Can I just say though that I really, 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 really don't like the weird flames at the bottom of all of the jerseys.
Makes it look a bit derpy.
The red one is particularly it has this weird like outline.
Red one doesn't make sense. They haven't sorted the colors out.
Yeah, there's like a weird
to make it stand out.
Yeah, there's like a weird like outline around the flames themselves, which makes it look just like someone has taken done it in Photoshop and kind of done like the magic trace and then just didn't delete it properly and it's left like lines around the outside. That's what I look every time I see it. I just think it's like.
Do you know what would be hilarious if they'd used that plastic that the Warrior W is made of and put it around those flames, and then Dave would just be apoplectic with hate about that jersey.
I'm not far off it at the minute based on the way it looks. But
I mean, apart from they look clean, the shoulders and all look clean. From a sponsorship point of view, they look very clear. But there's just those flames. I don't know what they were thinking. I just don't know.
I think you're right. I like the clean block colors, but then I'm not a fan of that flame design at the bottom. I think it's awful.
Dave, any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that the as much hate as their new brand got, I think it's it's good to set an identity, and if they're wanting to make something new. But it does look a bit like they just went and got a bit of flames clip art and stuck it in the bottom and hope for the best.
Yeah, it just looks. I don't know. I just don't. Yeah. But then we're not buying these jerseys. It's the Cardiff fans. Maybe the Cardiff fans really like them. I don't know. I haven't really seen much about it. I should go and have a look. But yeah, I don't. It's not for me anyway. Let's move on. We've got the Coventry Blaze jerseys, which I think actually look beautiful. In my opinion, I really like them, and I actually really do like this grey Challenge Cup or alternate jersey that they have going on. I always think their design looks pretty nice and pretty clean. Their dark blue one always looks really nice. Again, I think probably you guys are maybe in agreement there that it's the same.
No, I do. I always like the
thing I love is that color banding that goes down the shoulder and then turns into like a cuff around just under the elbow. I love that little piece of design work, and I love the fact that they've retained design elements across all three. They actually just look like alternate versions of each jersey, and I get that other teams are doing that. The last two that we've seen are attempting to do that. Cardiff does it incredibly simply just by changing the block color, but by changing some of the sort of tonal shift that happens in the Coventry jerseys, there's something very, very pleasing about seeing those three jerseys lined up together, and they all work, even with the alternate logo on the grey one. They all work incredibly well. So whoever's doing that design work for them, hire them.
I also like that whenever I downloaded these images of the jerseys, they had a nice transparent background. It made me happy. I don't know why. I was like, oh, it looks nice. Okay, moving on.
Anthony makes a really good point, which actually we can come into this one with. And says that the Blaze regular jerseys are always usually great as opposed to their special game jerseys, which are usually appalling. Absolutely fantastic point to make at just the right time, I think, because let's have a look at their warm-up jersey.
This is for all
Someone's
season.
a fan of House of the Dragon.
I'm lost for words. I genuinely...
They accidentally released their Halloween jersey.
That's what I thought.
I literally
stuck with it.
I looked at this and I thought, have you ever seen those? And again, I don't mean to stereotype, but like certain Americans love like these T-shirts and these jumpers that have like wolves on them, really, like
angry unicorns.
Yeah, like wolves, and like you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. This kind of reminded me of exactly that. I'm like, it's just full on. There's just so much. It's just like, wow.
It looks like someone took a screenshot from like a World of Warcraft cutscene and decided, do you know what? Yeah. I'm gonna put that on a jersey.
Wonder if they got a copyright strike. Wonder if they didn't make it and they stole it.
Oh, like Glasgow last year.
It's awful. Awful.
It's appalling. Let's not force people to look at it any longer.
No, let's move on. Let's look at some beautiful jerseys this year. Let's look at the Fife Flyers jerseys for this coming season, because oh my god, Fife Flyers have done a great job here and created something beautiful again. I particularly wanted just to point out these away jerseys with the tartan that comes up that makes it look like a kilt at the bottom. I think that's the design they're going for there, but I mean, beautiful. John, let's go to you first, because I think you're having an orgasm. I think you actually accidentally knocked off your microphone in your excitement there. I
did.
Yeah.
Every single one of those jerseys is gorgeous. The Challenge Cup jersey, like last season, is my absolute favorite. Like, it is, I get it's bright yellow. I get that it's got tartan on it. I get that it's got the Chaz Children's Hospitals Across Scotland logo down there in multicolour. But it's fantastic. Yeah. It's so good, and it works. The home and away jerseys. I know I said with the Coventry one that I loved the shared patterning and everything. Other teams where they do a slightly different pattern, it doesn't work. These ones work. They're brilliant. There's a shared identity across all of them. The main team logo is the main thing on all of these jerseys. The warm-up jerseys, they've actually put thought into, which a lot of teams don't, and I love them because down the bottom, I don't know if you guys have seen what those bands on the bottom correspond to.
It looks like an audio band. It looks like an audio.
They're sound waves.
Yeah.
So they are sound waves of the fans in Kirkcaldy making noise for their team. How epic is that? You put something as simple as a waveform on the bottom of a jersey and it looks epic. And do you know what they did on their socials? Is they played the particular audio on a release video for those jerseys.
That's beautiful. That's amazing.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And if it's the same person who did last season's, lock them in for 10 years.
That's beautiful.
Lock them in. This is brilliant.
Yeah. Dave, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. They've done a fantastic job, and Marty, I'm with you. The away jersey just looks something special, something a wee bit different out there. And then the Challenge Cup jersey again is you're gonna know who it is as soon as they step on the ice. So that's what you want from a jersey.
Yeah. I just as soon as I seen that away jersey and seen that little like that what looked like the kilt, kind of like the way the t-shirt, like the shirt kind of was tucked into the top of the kilt band. As soon as I seen that, I just thought, that's perfect. It's brilliant. It looks really well. Fair play to Fife. Definitely, I think my choice for jerseys of the year, Fife Flyers. Definitely. I mean, they're beautiful. It's absolutely stunning.
But they're going to have that stupid wee silver thing from Warriors. So
yeah. Let's move on to the Glasgow Clan, who've released these two jerseys, these special jerseys for their Warrior tournament that they're taking part in. So these are the pre-season jerseys that they've got going. They're unoffensive. They're clean. They're nice enough. Again,
the white one tries to do what you said the Fife one was doing, but does it very, very badly.
Oh no, I don't. Yeah, I don't see it the same way.
There's some real weird digital compression issue with the tartan between the top and the bottom, where they've just like grabbed it and shrunk it. So it's
But also, do you know what really annoys me is look at the way that the tartan goes down the shoulders, and then it immediately down the front changes direction. There's something really displeasing about that jut from one way to the other. I don't know how they fix it, but that's not it. And the one thing I will say, and I've said it for plenty of other jerseys, what I do like, look at the size of that Glasgow Clan logo.
Yeah, well, with a warm-up jersey, they don't need to worry about anything else. But
they're one-offs. They're one-offs for the Warrior tournament. They don't have their sponsor logos on them. So the fact that they've been able to do that, that's nice.
The home one, I think, you know what annoys me, and it's the same reason why. Remember your Fife tartan jersey? That's very tartan.
Yep.
This annoys me for the opposite side, is that they didn't have the commitment to just do a tartan jersey. You know, they should have just done no fade, purple tartan, rock it out. You know,
well, I remember what the Stars did last season with the tartan competition. They had the tartan inside the star. That was inspired. That was absolutely brilliant. Again, that was a competition jersey, but like this, you've supposedly got graphic designers who are doing this. That's just boring.
We know Glasgow.
I hope their regular season jerseys are better than that.
Well, we know Glasgow.
Couldn't be any worse.
We know Glasgow has a history of poor designs last season. We'll wait and see what more poor designs they put out this season.
Can't wait to
but
see
anyway, we'll move on to the next one, and that is the Dundee Stars. Oh, this should be back there somewhere. Obviously, not in alphabetical order. Dundee Stars. I mean, nothing really new here. Just a lot in your face.
Dundee Stars jerseys.
Just overdone with sponsorship right in the middle. Makes their Dundee Stars logo just disappear completely. Just
it's
standard.
A bit better than last year, though. Wasn't the trade market behind their logo last year? It was like a circle, and their logo was sort of looked like it was part of it. Where they having it blocked separately.
Like that,
it makes it a bit better, but it's still not enough.
No.
The trademark is, I know that you need a big sponsor. We've got had Stanline for donkeys on our jerseys, but the trademark, because their colors are because it's yellow, it takes away your first thing you see is trademark. Bang, you're looking at it, you know, no matter what you do on that jersey. And that's why the one with the tartan worked so well, because it drew your eye to the Dundee, you know, to the logo rather than anything else on it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I will say what we don't have shown here is the Challenge Cup jersey, which was released yesterday, and effectively it is a lighter blue version of that home jersey.
Okay.
Literally no other differences, no other design differences other than the arm stripes are vertical rather than horizontal, white and red stripes. That's pretty much it. But it's the type Dundee have always had. I feel very, very poor regular season jerseys, where they do come out themselves. Weirdly, is with their one-off jerseys.
Yeah, they used to be better. Last year, I think their Halloween one was pretty good, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. Okay, moving on. We have the Nottingham Panthers. I think Manchester at the end. I think they're release starts tonight, so we'll come back to that in a second. The Nottingham Panthers have released their jerseys. Obviously, they're black and their home and their alternate, and I think we have their away one after this as well.
I think their away one's next. Yep.
Yeah, their home and their alternate. Again, sticking to their tried and tested bold black and gold color, with their alternating colored strip bands on their arms. Always look neat, always look clean. I think one of the big things that the Panthers have going for them is obviously that the sponsorship thing has changed, and there's not the big sponsorship isn't no longer in the middle, so it doesn't have the Nottingham Building Society logo is not there on top of the Panthers this year round, which kind of makes a big difference. What I will say is, fan of the show, Mark, he did message me before the podcast started, and he just said that he couldn't watch live, but he just wanted to say that the Panthers have the best ones so far. If they used those designs in teal, white, and red with the Giants logo, it would buy all three. So it's a bold statement there.
They are
nice.
lovely jerseys.
They're lovely.
He's not wrong. Bear in mind, the Panthers also had their very, very slight redesign to their logo. So if you flick back, Marty, just for 2 seconds.
Yep.
So this is their home and they're all on it. Note the wording over the logo is Panthers.
Yep.
And when they travel away, if you skip forward, that says Nottingham.
So you know where they're from?
Yeah, exactly.
I love them. I think it's really nice. I know that, and some of their jerseys in the past have been questionable, but I think this is a really good change.
I think all three of those are very, very nice. I think Mark is wrong. I think Fife are better, but I think all of these are good. And if I had to pick one that I like, and it's literally because of the Preds, but that gold jersey is really, really nice.
It's funny just flicking back and forth there between the Nottingham jerseys from the previous slide and this slide. It's funny that the brand, the sponsorship on the white jersey, definitely it's more noticeable. Like it's more in your face on the white one, whereas we go back to the other ones, they're a bit more muted on the other two jerseys. I don't think
it's white. I think it's the difference between the background block color being white or black or a color. Because you'll notice on the gold one, it's the Wago sponsor for is the one that jumps out on this jersey because it's so stark against white. Whereas weirdly, even on gold, it looks to disappear, and on black just soaks up the color of everything around it. So it is more noticeable on the white one. It's still a nice jersey. But the gold one for me is the winner for Nottingham this season.
Moving
the
on
only
to the
concern I have with the Nottingham one is that they have a bad habit of their jerseys in real life looking mustard rather than yellow, and that could ruin it. It could make it look a bit sort of drab and not pop. But if they do it the same yellow that's in their logo, I think it'll look fantastic.
I will say they actually look pretty close to that because their website photos, which I was looking at just when I was looking at the jerseys, they've got the players wearing the jerseys on the online shop, and they actually do pretty closely reflect the colours that you see on there.
Nice. Last but not least, we have Manchester with...
This is awful.
What?
Who signed this off? These are pre-season jerseys, bear in mind. So these are not regular season jerseys. This is what's been released for their pre-season games. These are god-awful. Some of their fans are going absolutely mental for these. Are you blind? You must be because you can't see your logo.
That is really... Yeah, that
it's ridiculous.
That logo's really hard to see. Really hard to see.
It's a warm-up jersey. It's like a blank black warm-up jersey.
I can see why. To be fair, I can see why people like it. I can see, but I can see why people like it.
But why?
Because there's
you would have made that. You would have made that really nice if they'd have done it in like shades of their purple or something. Because then at least it would be a team color. I know the black's one of the colors.
Do you know what I'd prefer? If that logo is stitched, it should have bright white stitching.
Right, that would be nice.
Around that logo. And even like the internal detailing should be white. I don't care if they have blackout logos and all the rest, but that jersey is awful.
Yeah, I agree.
And if it looks like that in real life, I'll wait to see what the images look like when they take to the ice in these. If it looks like that, that's horrendous.
Awful.
I wouldn't part with a single penny.
And that's it for the jerseys for this episode. They're probably the next episode we'll probably finally get to see the Sheffield one and the Guildford one. I don't think we've missed anybody else out, and some of the Glasgow maybe will release their actual season jerseys. But we'll wait and see how they look. Do we have any other stories, John? I think there's two more little bits before we pack up for the night.
Yeah, there was just a couple of other things that I thought were sort of noteworthy. Just as the day was kind of going on. The first one was that today the Nottingham Panthers announced their captaincies for the season ahead. I think they're one of the first teams to officially announce their captains group for the season ahead. So Sam Herr takes the C, and joining him with the A's will be Ollie Betteridge, Hugo Wah, and Josh Tetlow. So basically, like I said, that English core looking to be very, very important in that Nottingham lineup this season.
Yep.
The other story then was, well, it's not so much a story as it is just an update. And that's just that the CHL, obviously the Champions Hockey League, is getting ready to kick off. The first game day, as they're calling them, will be the 5th of September. We'll see a variety of teams facing off. There'll be 6 games on game day 1. The last of those games to face off will be the Sheffield Steelers against Freiburg Gotteron. And that will kick off their European adventure as they look to see how far through the new reformatted CHL they can get with their 3 away games and 3 home games.
They have a real opportunity there. Their group is nice for them when you compare it to the slog that the Giants had in Finland. So,
yep.
If it sounded like I made an audible sigh there when you mentioned the date of September 5th, it's mainly because our next podcast recording to start off our season is supposed to be the 5th of September.
Yes! Goal updates coming your way.
I feel like Anthony, I'm really sorry, but I feel like our next podcast might have to be a Wednesday.
No. Everyone loves it. Everyone
no,
loves it.
No one likes.
I wonder
it.
if you, John. I wonder if you can do a picture-in-picture and have the scores. You know, like in Sky Football or this. You know, where they scroll up the side of you.
Don't encourage.
Yep.
Don't
gonna
encourage.
Gonna have the ticker, and then I'm just gonna give it absolute stacks.
No,
look,
don't.
Anthony's even saying we're not allowed. It is Wednesday nights. Gimmick infringement. We're not allowed to do it. So we stick to Thursdays. See you all for CHL game day 1, folks.
That is all we've got for this episode. Our next podcast, as I say, will be we're back 2 weeks time on the 5th of September. Hopefully, fingers crossed. That'll be this return of our regular fortnightly podcast from the 5th of September moving forward throughout the rest of the season. Again, I say fingers crossed. If you haven't listened to our previous podcast, you can go and do so on on our door14hockey.com website. You can check out all of our previous episodes. We're on SoundCloud. We're on all of the podcast providers of choice. Go and give it a listen. We're also on YouTube. Check out the video version of our podcast if you want to see our lovely faces and the content that we talk about. You can go and check that out on our YouTube. We're also on all of the social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, X, now on Twitch, and also on TikTok, where John will continue to do his TikTok videos and be a TikTok dance coming up soon. Maybe, we never know. And I think that is it for this week. That just gives us just for us to say thank you very much for listening to the podcast, and also thank you very much for those who have watched us live. We will return in 2 weeks' time for the 2024-2025 hockey season, and we look forward to that. With that, we'll sign off.
We'll do your annual predictions then.
Next week, yeah, or next podcast, yeah, we will, dude. Okay, with that, we will sign off for this week. I'm Marty.
I'm Dave.
I'm John.
Have a great week.